and welcome to the Adam Messer Show. I'm your host, Adam Messer, and I'm here today actually for like one of the first times in the studio that I've had anybody in the studio in like a year. You're like one of the first people I've had in the studio. I've only had one other person with me in the studio.
What an honor.
Yeah, I know. Harrison Jaffee.
Yeah, that's how you say it?
Yeah, I actually had a guest on it 2 weeks ago. His name is Stuart Jaffee, and he's an author.
I looked at your Spotify
Different
archives
names.
and I saw his name. He spells it with one E.
Yeah, pronunciation same, different spellings.
It's a very common Jewish last name.
Yeah, kind of like we were
cats.
just talking about Messer and Messler. You said you know an Adam Messler.
I do, yeah.
And I'm Adam Messer, so, that's pretty cool. So, Harrison, like, dude, you're here in Savannah. You're from New York, right?
That's correct, yeah. New York City, born and raised, native New Yorker.
Dude, that's awesome. So, little backstory, everybody. Harrison was in town for like a month, and you emailed the studio and said, hey, I do radio up in New York, and I'd love to, if you, any way you can, check it out or whatever, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, hey, I've got a time spot open this Sunday, which just happened to work out perfectly. So do you mind giving everybody kind of like a little background about yourself?
Not at all, but I'll start with how that started too, because it's funny. I emailed really thinking I was offering maybe more like a guest slot for DJing or something.
Like
that's what I'm used to in New York.
Yeah.
But when you got back to me and you said you wanted to interview me, not only do not many people interview me, I'm never going to say no to that. So it was really cool. So yeah. Well, thanks for having me. I'm an assistant director for the Directors Guild of America. I work on network TV shows, feature films, music videos, commercials. And then in my off time, I host a radio show every Saturday on kpiss.fm, which is the golden stream, as we call it. It's internet radio. It's a little more crass than your station, and there's not many rules. But I do like a variety hour of eclectic music from around the world, punk, disco, all sorts of stuff. Little current events with my really dear friend Blake, who we record in Brooklyn together. And, it's a cool community. KPIS is a non-for-profit community station like yours, internet-based. It used to be run out of an RV in Bushwick in Brooklyn.
Oh, wow.
COVID hit. They had to get rid of the RV. So we're fully on the internet now, and they're redesigning the site, which is already amazing. So I'm excited to see what it's going to look like. The founder, Sherry Barkley, is going to drop the entire new-looking site in a few days.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so...
Dude, is radio, like, so crazy anymore? I mean, like, when I was a kid growing up, they had the radio station, and, you had to get it on your dial, or, if you had, like, a digital radio or whatever. But, back then I still had, like, a little antenna radio. And, like, today, with the internet, you can have it broadcast anywhere.
I know, but it's funny. I am old school at heart, so I drive my diesel station wagon around listening to radio all day. That's how I found about your station.
WRU, yeah.
That's all I've been listening to here, because
wow.
you get sick of your own music. So you start searching for what's good and local.
Different.
And you guys have great shows. I like the theme stream. I emailed him. I was like, we hosted yesterday on my show something called a double clap special, songs with double claps in them. So I was like, hey, here's another idea for you. You could float that one around. There's so many songs,
Dude, that's awesome.
Yeah, and I love radio. So I own a Tivoli Model 1, and it's my most prized possession in my kitchen. Like, I hold it higher than my Crusette,
Nice. So how did you end up in Savannah? Like, you just on vacation down here? Or?
No. So Savannah is very important to me. I went to the film school here years ago.
SCAD?
I went to SCAD.
Yeah.
That was a fun experience. Made a lot of dear friends. And most importantly, met my wife, who I'm married to right now. And she's here. She's listening. And her name's Rebecca.
Oh, shout out to Rebecca. What's up?
And she loves Savannah too. So we really like just kind of coming down here before the summer hits in New York, if we have time, and hitting the beach and getting that sun. And
nice.
We love the vibes here. It's it's a town that I don't experience many towns like this.
I think that's one of the things, is like Savannah is kind of like it's not really a big city, but it's kind of like a big little town. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that's what it reminds me of, because I grew up in Cincinnati, and
I know all about that too.
Cincinnati?
Yeah.
Really?
My grandfather was like a bald opera singer in Cincinnati.
No
he was
way.
also the spokesman for Dixie Chili.
Oh,
in
yeah,
the 70s.
Chili. No way. That's cool. I love Greek chili. I love
that
like
stuff.
Dixie chili,
Sure.
Skyline chili, Gold Star Chili. I love all those. They're great.
Skyline.
Yeah, all of them. So you got ties to Savannah, Cincinnati, New York.
It's beyond that. Cincinnati,
awesome.
Not so much right now. My dad's South African, so that's a whole other story. And my stepdad's Australian, so I just have had like a lot of.
It had a lot of worldly.
Yeah. But my mom, if you trace her roots back, she was born in New Jersey.
Oh, okay.
Grew up in Cincinnati or really Kentucky across the bridge. So
yeah.
Like, I know that whole world.
Covington
I've been
or
to
something like that?
many a wedding there, many a funeral, unfortunately, many a Reds game, Bengals. I've eaten all the food.
I haven't been there since like '96, man. It's so crazy. I moved to Savannah in '96, and I've been here, and I love it. That's the thing I like about the vibe with Savannah, because it's so eclectic in a way, because you have a lot of people from all over. You get a lot of people from all over the world that come to Savannah. They even actually have I know a guy named Scott West, and they have he's from New York, and they have I think it's monthly New Yorkers get together where they get together and they have like a luncheon.
If I moved here, I would do that, but I'm here to get away from my folks right now.
Right. Yeah, but it's pretty cool that they got all these folks together, and I don't know, man. It's just that's one of the things I like about Savannah. That you get people from all over, and I meet a lot of creative people, especially like from SCAD. There's a lot of folks that, they come out of SCAD or they go to SCAD or whatever. And
there's some parallels between New York and Savannah too, which I find, like the accessibility by foot and bike. And then also the amount of weirdos there are.
A lot of strange.
Yeah, but like the type of characters I like, you really run into some interesting characters on the streets here.
Yeah, have you been to Forsyth and hang out there?
Yeah, I'm there every day, or the beach.
Yeah.
Life's really tough right now.
Yeah, you're struggling, aren't you?
Well, I'm starting a new job in like 3 weeks, and I am going to make the most of this time.
That's good.
COVID was the main driving force for the trip. So like COVID came out in New York.
Yeah.
New York became the epicenter.
Right.
I didn't even think twice. I looked at Rebecca. I got in the car. I floored it down I-95.
Yeah.
We came down here. We stayed with some friends for a little bit. We didn't really know what was going to happen with COVID. So
nobody did, right?
I think we were both kind of like, maybe Savannah is our new home. So we started living in Airbnbs, blowing unemployment money, which I could have saved, but it was an enjoyable experience. We were here for about 5.5, 6 months.
Oh, wow.
And that's what, it made us re-fall in love with this place. And for the past, 7 months, we've just been talking about when we're going to come down again. So this seemed like the perfect time, and it's been great.
Nice little getaway before you get the new job. Huh?
Yeah.
That's awesome, man. So what got you into like filmmaking and, that side of, because you say you went to SCAD.
Yeah, so really early through the bloodline, my dad was a commercial producer and documentarian. And an assistant director, he says, but I don't know if he was. But love my dad, and he got me interested. He is an interesting guy. Has been kind of not doing so much film stuff, more passion projects recently. He's more of a photographer these days and does a lot of wildlife and stuff.
Oh, he probably loves Savannah too.
He does. He rented a house in Tybee last year.
Wildlife. Oh my gosh, yeah.
He loves low tide at Tybee. He reads the charts.
Tell your dad there's a whole group on Facebook that they do coastal photography. There's a whole a whole group that all they do is like wildlife and stuff from coastal Georgia. He probably would love that.
I'll send it to him.
Yeah.
So he got me interested, and it would be like it was hard to spend time with him. My mom was a foreign exchange banker. He was a film producer. So when I did spend time with him, it would often be kind of on set. So I remember being in South Dakota on a Wells Fargo commercial and having some sort of babysitter and going to the Mount Rushmore, but then making it back to watch the Knicks in the playoffs. It was just
wow.
These are some of my earliest memories, And
traveling.
Yeah. But he got me interested, and then I just kind of took it another, took it as I would. My own interpretation on what I wanted to do in the film industry. So I got my toes wet in boarding school or in high school. I made a feature-length movie that I wrote. It got me a merit scholarship to SCAD.
Oh wow!
Which I might have lost through partying, but that's another story.
Right.
And Yeah, from there it was corporate film. You know, when I graduated from Savannah, I was the the assistant to the COO of a big film company in the West Village, and I was kind of moving around ad agencies, post office, post-production facilities in New York.
Oh, cool.
Distribution and rights management, festivals type of stuff. Like, you know, I've seen it kind of a lot of different.
You had like a mix of all the foundational stuff.
But what I found is I'm not an office person.
Yeah.
I can't sit. I can't write. I can't add. I can't do any of that stuff. I really revel when I'm on set with 2 walkie-talkies, placing extras, yelling at the top of my lungs, sort of thing. That's really where my talents lie.
The workhorses of the set.
Yeah, it's kind of like a drug of choice in its own. It's like it takes a definite type of person to do my job, but you can't be shy, for instance. You have to be really open and meeting upwards of 300 people a day you've never seen and addressing all of them.
Right.
So it's
getting them to actually do the what they need to do too.
Yeah, and it's important to deliver it in like an assertive but also friendly way.
Yeah. I haven't done a whole lot of stuff. I was in the show year before last. It was it was about Savannah, and a friend of mine, Ryan Dunn, he has his own tour company with his wife, Kim Dunn. They own this company called Afterlife Tours, and so he was on this show called America's Most Terrifying Places, and it was one of those paranormal type shows or whatever. Anyway, they needed an extra, and so I was on set with that as an extra on the show, and it was funny because we had like a small group of people, you know, and we had a PA and he wasn't an assistant director like, you know, the position that you do or whatever.
He was probably what we call a background PA. So he's like the guy who hands off the extras to me.
Yeah, kind of. He was kind of like a liaison between the director and us, you know, the extras of like, hey, we're going to be setting this up or whatever.
He could have very well been what I do. That's what I do.
Yeah, maybe it's the same thing. But it was neat because like we were there, man, like 14 hours or something like that. And we had all these different scenes that we were doing. And I didn't have any spoken lines, but it was weird because you've seen this historical reenactment shows where like on the History Channel or something like that. This is on the Travel Channel. But we did this like historical reenactment of these characters that they were talking about that were real people that were haunting the Moon River Cafe, Moon River Brewing downtown. And it was funny because like that was like that. And I had a friend that he did his MFA at SCAD, and I used to help him with a lot of his projects for his thesis and all that. And it was funny because like when I was just helping him, it was just a couple buddies. I'm like, oh yeah, whatever. And like I didn't realize all the work I was doing for him. It was so funny because we were just back and forth. But yeah, I think it takes like you said, I think it takes a special character to be able to do that because that's
like for instance, like
juggling 100 different plates at one time.
How did the 14 hours feel?
It was long.
So that's like that's a minimal hour duration day for me. That is like I'm minimally gonna be working that amount 5 days a week. So it's like it's crazy, you know.
Yeah,
you gotta commit to it.
Yeah, I know. I mean, like I don't have any problem doing like long days. It's just I hadn't done that before, and with the heat, we didn't have air conditioning on the floor that we were working on.
Mm-hmm.
It was like in the middle of August. It was draining.
It goes both ways. I mean, in New York, we get the extreme cold and then the extreme hot. So I can work on
humidity up there. Like people don't think there's a lot of humidity up there, but there is. Because
same with Cincinnati.
Water. Yeah, the Ohio River. It's like it's humid.
It's
there.
hot there in the summer.
Not quite as bad as Savannah, but it is rough. I've never been to New York, but I've had a lot of friends from there, and like I could imagine like
for instance in New York, I can get a call sheet one night, and throughout the day we'll say we have like four scenes, and it's like we're starting outside, and on the weather report on the call sheet it says it's 28 degrees and snowing, so you're starting there, but then we're moving inside to this dry cleaning establishment or something, and there's hot lights, so you're going from the blizzard in there, and there's not enough room for everyone, so you have to really think before you even dress for work, and you're like peeling off layers like an onion, you know?
Hey everybody, you're tuning in today to WRUU LP Savannah, Georgia, 107.5 FM, WRUU.org. We are Savannah Soundings Community Radio with Global Soul. This is the Adam Messer Show, and I'm here with my special guest today, Harrison Jaffee, and we're kind of just talking a little bit about your your director career.
Assistant directing. I am not a director. I thought I'd be one day. Maybe I will still.
I mean, don't shoot yourself short. You know, I mean, like that assistant directing and directing. Don't mean a lot of times the only difference is the title.
Well, no, it's actually you're not a. People assume. I'm glad I can touch this actually.
Yeah.
People assume that an assistant director is an assistant to the director, but it's not the case at all. It's actually, I'd say, there's 3 really important people on a movie set. There's the director, there's the director of photography, and there's the first assistant director. The first assistant director acts as a mediator and liaison between those 2 guys, and he makes sure you're on schedule. I mean, we're in charge of everything from transportation, the actors getting ready, placing the extras, meals being served on time, making our day. I mean, everything falls on you. You're like that guy who's making sure we get all the work done. So you have to respect the director's creative process, but you also have to be like, over his shoulder and be like, do you think we got that? Because we have a lot more to do. And that was like the 9th take. So
yeah, you're like in process management and all that. And yeah.
And often people also think that the director says rolling and cutting and all that. That's actually what I do. Right. So like I'm the voice on set. He comes in with the creative notes, you know.
Yeah, he's the boss, and you're the one that's delegating all the orders. Yeah.
So I can do what I'm doing for a very long time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you'd be more comfortable like doing the assistant director versus being the main director? Is that what you're saying? Or?
No, I mean I've directed things in my life, but like not with massive budgets or anything.
Yeah.
But I've always thought of myself, I mean, I'm creative, obviously, because I have a radio show with my friend and stuff, but I'm not always creating. I'm more of like a organizer and doer. I think that's my biggest strength. So, you know, I haven't really thought about directing so much anymore. I haven't been optioning scripts I've written to like producers or anything. I just kind of, I take what work I can, what comes to me, and I, you know, do the best job I can in my niche assistant directing. That's another thing. There's a lot of us, but there's not a lot of good ADs. So
I gotcha.
Once you start really making those connections, it's nice.
Yeah.
You do a movie, then they invite you to the next one.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's I think that's interesting too, the way that kind of work. Because I'm not, and I don't want to mention names or anything like that, but we were talking before the show. You know, I know a guy that he started off, like when I first met him, he was doing we were doing the film festival together, and now he's been doing some, major, features and stuff like that. And I know some other folks that they've kind of moved up the ladder, just from hard work or kind of sometimes just meeting the right person, being in the right place or whatever. But that's cool that you kind of had like a history with it. I mean, it seems like this is what you've been around and doing your whole life almost.
Definitely. And like I've worked on a lot of shows too, just in the last 5 years. I probably can't even count off the top of my head. And some really interesting, I've been lucky. I feel like you can do my job and get hired to work on like Blacklist and certain police procedurals and stuff. But I've lucked out and worked on like awesome comedies, some sleeper kind of indie hits. It's like almost as if I picked where I was going to work, but I just was lucky that I worked a couple weeks ago on a show that I just watched last night, and I rarely find shows really funny these days, but the other two, I worked on that a couple weeks ago, and that turned out to be one of the funniest shows I've seen in a while.
I know you can't talk about a lot of the current stuff that you're working on because they have like non-disclosure and all that. But what's like maybe a project that has already out there that you could talk about that you've done recently?
Okay, I can talk about a few of them, but
yeah.
let me just list. I'll list off what I've most recently worked on. So I did the other two, just a couple of days on that. I'm not going to take any credentials for that, but I'm just proud that I worked on that show because I like it. But in completed projects, like every day I was there. I did the latest Walking Dead spin-off called World Beyond in Richmond, Virginia.
Oh, cool.
And before that, I did that Paul Rudd Netflix show called Living with Yourself, directed by that duo that did Little Miss Sunshine.
Did you get to spend time with him?
More time than you'd want to spend with him.
So he seems like a super nice guy.
Right.
Same in person, right?
I can say it now. So he was very focused on the show, and he plays multiple versions of himself. Think like Michael Keaton in Multiplicity, right?
Right.
So, I mean...
I haven't seen that movie yet, but I've seen the previews for it.
At first, I thought, okay, he's personable,
That's
he's likable.
Exactly what I thought was Michael Keaton.
No, Paul Rudd's like America's sweetheart. He's like that guy who's Ant-Man. He's more in comedies, 40-Year-Old Virgin, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
But he comes off as a really nice guy, and then I thought he was kind of a jerk for a while because he wasn't mixing with the crew so much, but he had to focus so hard on, I mean, he had to shoot so much content.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he's even acting with himself, you know?
Yeah.
Playing multiple versions of himself. They were putting a hologram on set with this technology on the screen so he could watch himself talking to himself.
Is that kind of like with the concerts, how they've had those holograms with the singers?
Yeah, but it's like no one on set sees it other than if you're looking at a monitor. It's really weird. It's cool technology. They hold this like wand up and it blinks before you shoot.
Oh, okay.
I don't know what any of this stuff's called. That's why I'm not on that side, the camera and stuff. But you know, I bumped into him on election day in New York in my neighborhood, and he stopped me, turned around. When you get stopped by someone like that, who's like a really big celebrity, it feels good. So I can only say really good things about Paul Rudd now because he
does seem like a genuinely nice person, though. I mean, like I've seen some interviews with him, and
he's very he's a philanthropist. I think he has a foundation for Tourette's syndrome or something, and he owns a candy shop, and all the proceeds go to that. He's a good guy.
Yeah, he just seems like an authentically nice person, not just kind of like putting on a persona, you know, for the public. You know, he seems like he actually is a genuine nice person. So it's nice to hear that.
And before that, I did the Wu-Tang show on Hulu.
Really?
Yeah, and that was the most amazing
Wu-Tang
experience.
For life, dude.
Oh yeah. So I mean, I went to all the projects that they grew up in, met their families. RZA was my boss and the showrunner.
Oh really?
Yeah. So I really I got wooed out.
Wow.
I know all about the woo world, and my project that I'm most proud to date, to answer your question properly, is it was a movie called Wildlife, directed by Paul Dano. I was the AD on it, and we shot in Montana and Oklahoma, starring Jake Gyllenhaal and Carey Mulligan. And it went to Cannes, it went to Sundance, and when it first got released, it didn't get so much popularity, and now people are starting to really enjoy how beautifully shot the movie is.
Dude, that's awesome. Hey Bass, you wanna play some for us? Yep. Awesome. This is Sebastian Messer, everybody. This is my son, and he has his band called Krieger, and he's gonna play a little live music for us here in the studio here on WRUU.
Amazing.
LP Savannah, Georgia, 107.5 FM, WRU.org. We are Savannah Community Radio with Global Soul. Dude, thank you very much. That was good.
Agreed.
Yeah. So yeah, Sebastian's had his band. He started about 6 years ago now. Yeah. So he plays heavy metal.
Oh.
And he's got a band called Krieger, and they play heavy metal. And then he plays acoustic music a lot of times on the show. So, but that's the same. That Ovation guitar is the same one that what's that singer? I can't remember his name. Jim Croce used to play on.
Who's that again?
The guy that sings "Time in a Bottle," Bad Leroy Brown.
Yes.
Yeah, that guy.
There we go.
Yeah. So, okay, man. So you know that's a cool thing. You and your wife, you're down here visiting. Does your wife work in film as well?
She doesn't. I've seen a lot of people date people in the film industry. It doesn't really work out so well. Conflicting schedules. She's artistic. Obviously, we met at SCAD. She is a designer for fashion right now, but she was a jewelry designer for the past few years. She's She can do anything. She studied industrial design back in the day.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. When you were talking about Wu-Tang, I was thinking like I used to work at this store called Peppermint Music back in '97.
Yeah.
And I can't remember which album they had, like a double album that came out. And it was crazy because this record store that I worked at that was like right after Biggie got shot and killed, and it was crazy, man.
It's probably like 36 Chambers or something.
Yeah,
that's the big one. They all kind of like
one.
Yeah, they all kind of made like really big solo careers after that.
Yeah. So I'm not gonna say that I'm like I like Wu-Tang, and I'm not gonna say that I know all their discography. I don't listen to like a ton of music, but yeah, it was cool when you were saying that you actually worked on their documentary, and I was like, oh,
well, it's actually, there's a great documentary on them on Showtime called Of Mice and Men, but what I did was like almost with actors the full storytelling of that.
Yeah.
So like,
okay.
Yeah.
So like for somebody who's not really familiar, what was that show about? I mean, like, could you kind of do like a walk?
Absolutely. I mean, Wu-Tang's a very unique rap group because they're probably the most famous rap supergroup ever. Started as a supergroup and then ventured off and all became
like individuals,
solo artists, but like platinum artists,
big names.
Big names. And RZA, who's the producer, was kind of the puppeteer of everything. Mm-hmm. So much so that he was like, Method Man, you're gonna go to Tommy Boy. And Ghostface, I want you at Def Jam because it fits your personality. He literally catered to their. It was just
he kind of orchestrated all.
Yeah,
that,
and I think there's a lot of like, there's some animosity between the members now because RZA really wore the producer pants and takes a lot of credibility for stuff. I don't know if they all get along so much anymore, but I think they all have the consensus that they were really cool and they love telling the story together. So. That was just interesting working. They're actually filming the second season right now, but I wasn't invited back.
Oh, okay.
But I'm okay with it because I have a new thing on the horizon. And you can check my IMDb in like 3 weeks and see what it is. I can't say right now.
Right. Gotta be on the download and not let everybody know because that's something that really kills me too. Is I know that they're like with the Avengers, for example. There were certain people that they could not share certain details about because they couldn't keep it quiet, and that's one of the things I think too, that sometimes like those leaks seem like they work, right? They kind of build up, some hype, but then other times it's kind of like, well, it just deflates the whole, I don't know, like a major scene of a movie or something like that. You know what I mean?
I actually don't like trailers a lot.
I hate spoilers. I don't like spoilers. I really literally don't want to know. Like if you've watched a movie, I don't want you telling me about it.
Yeah, like if Metacritic says it's like 8 and above and Rotten Tomatoes it's like it's 80% and above, I don't want to watch the trailer. I'm going to just trust that it's pretty good.
Right. I don't watch the reviews like when you were talking about the Walking Dead spinoff or whatever. Like when Walking Dead was in its heyday, and like there were tons of people watching it. They had like like
the show after.
The show after. Yeah. There were people who had like their own little talking groups and stuff. I was like, no, I don't. If I haven't watched it, I don't want to know any details about it.
I make this joke on our radio show. Blake will find that's very funny. He's my co-host.
Yeah. Shout out to Blake too.
Shout out to Blake,
What's
my
up, Blake?
Co-host. Shout out to Brandon and Bo who stream music with me all day. One funny thing I do at Day Bidet is at the end I usually say stick around for Talking Bidet, and I usually like name some random celebrity that hosted like Andy Cohen or something. But there's actually a guy who has a show after me and he probably doesn't find it funny at all.
Oh my gosh. All right, so with that we got to do our station underwriting stuff. We got to do like pay the bills, and we'll be back after these messages.
We are back with a spring on-air fundraising campaign because we need your support. All of the in-person fundraising events we normally have throughout the year have been canceled because of the coronavirus. Supporting WRUU with your financial gift is very important to us and could be one of the most affordable things you do today. When you make a $10 per month donation, you're spending much less on WRUU than you spend on cable or streaming services. When you make a one-time contribution of $107.50, that's less than you might spend on a pair of concert tickets or dinner for two at a nice restaurant. And you'll get the added benefit of WRUU lasting the whole year round. Compare WRUU to some of the other things that you value in your life, like daily coffee and your favorite snacks, and you'll discover that there are lots of reasons to value WRUU with a gift at our premium level, which works out to about 30 cents a day. Go to WRUU.org and make a financial contribution that fits within your budget. And thanks for supporting Savannah's best local talk radio as voted by readers in the most recent Connect Savannah poll, WRUU 107.5 FM. And for the first 3 donors who give a first or new donation of $500 or more will receive a limited edition painted record.
What does it mean when we say that WRUU is a community radio station? It doesn't just mean that we invite the community to create programming. And it doesn't just mean that we are a voice for the community. It also means that we are counting on the community to keep us going. And you are the community. Almost all of our modest budget comes from small annual or monthly donations from listeners like you. You get to enjoy our community-focused programming because many others have stepped forward to do their part. Now do your part by joining our community of listener donors. Go to WRUU.org right now and make a one-time or monthly donation. And thank you for supporting Savannah's community radio station, 107.5 FM.
All right. And we're back, everybody. Thank you for tuning in. This is the Adam Messer Show, and I'm your host, Adam Messer, here today with my special guest, Harrison Jaffee.
That's me.
Yeah, man. And so, like, we've been talking about your film side the first half an hour or so.
Yeah.
You mind if we talk about your radio?
I would love that.
Yeah, and so okay, so here's the deal. We could talk about the radio stuff. You already said it was on your station and all that. How did you get into getting your own show? You were kind of like mentioning a little bit during the break how your wife had something to do with it.
I smoke a lot, cigarettes. I have like quite a monotone voice, as you hear. And when I'm doing all the extra work on film sets, they often tell me I should do a radio show. Just people in general. I don't really get any other compliments in life. Just on the voice. You know what I mean? Okay. And I think that's what they're saying. You got the face for radio.
Face for radio, right?
Yeah, the classic. No, but I listen to a lot of radio, and I have done some guest spots on certain publications in New York and friends' shows on certain stations like No Wave and 8 Ball Radio and Lot Radio and all these places. And I've always wanted to do radio. So my wife called WFMU, freeform radio station in New Jersey, which is my favorite radio station in New Jersey.
Nice.
This is my favorite in Savannah. I just want to say that.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. And she called them. She emailed them, sorry. The Ken Friedman, who's famous, the director of programming at WFMU. It's a big deal to get on their station. Was like, my husband listens to your station night and day. Is there any way we can get him on it?
Oh, wow.
And they emailed her back. And you're like, actually, we have this thing now called Radio Row, hosted by Olivia, who does a show called Radio Ravioli on WFMU. And you can do whatever you want. It's freeform radio. It's really cool. You could literally go on and play field recordings of like ants walking if you wanted for 45 minutes.
Wow.
So I did my own thing, thought of like the ultimate little mixtape to throw on, you know. And what I find about radio that's so cool, it's kind of like every episode you do is kind of like what you're currently listening to. You know what I mean? When you're like curating and stuff. Yeah. So it brings you back every time when you're listening to those shows. So I got on that. I was aired on Sunday from 5 to 6 on my favorite radio station, listening to it on my FM radio in my kitchen, like crying my face off in happiness.
I had this dream that came to realization.
And then I have another side venture called Yorkville Treasure, which is kind of a homage to businesses that closed down in the neighborhood I grew up in.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, and that got kind of like a weird cult following. And one of the guys is like kind of a famous filmmaker and a radio host on KPIS. Mm-hmm. And he was like, I liked your WFMU show. And I was like, oh, you're on KPIS. Do you think you can help me get on that? And he like made the quick introduction to me, and I made the cut very quickly just because I sent that show to her.
Yeah.
And she was like, okay, this guy knows music. His voice isn't terrible. Let's give him a chance. And then my co-host I picked really easily because I have a friend who's quite good with sound design, and he pretty much listens to the exact same music as me. And we're kind of like Blake, yeah. Okay, and we're like, cool. we met in Savannah. We've actually only become more tight in the past couple years through friends. Wow. But he's like, I wouldn't be able to do the show without him. He's the technical wizard. So we both write the script and pick the music. But at the end of the day, like, I am not tech savvy at all, to be honest. And it's funny, I work on film sets and stuff, but like ADs use like Excel, a pen, and a walkie-talkie. I'm not like pulling F stops here.
You're good with people. You're good with like people and managing that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And the tech, I can understand that with the tech side. It's one of those things too. Like we have an older soundboard, but it works. You know what I mean? We have a computer that, you know, we have a broadcasting antenna that actually broadcasts. I think it's like 50,000 watts or something like that around Savannah. Like it's like low FM or something like that. It's called, because it doesn't go out to huge, you know, distance or whatever. But we also have with WRU, we have it simulcast on the internet, 24/7. And so, you know, like I think it's pretty cool when we're talking about technology, you know, being able to do your own radio show of the kind of music that you enjoy. I feel like that comes across better. Like with this show, I enjoy talking with people about like their creative stuff. I feel like that comes across so much better than some of the stuff that's like just repeat, formulaic.
No, I agree with you. When I saw what you do, I just think it's like it's important to interview people that have, you know, different ventures going on. Maybe they're not necessarily like Travolta famous, but a lot of people like don't want to be famous, and they create a lot of things, and they just want to share it with people, you know.
I love it. I mean, I love it. It's kind of like when you're talking about making indie films, indie radio, or, you know, even if it's a small station like us, you know, we're not necessarily indie, but we're a community radio station, you know, and I love that because it's not overproduced. It's not overly, you know, and don't get me wrong, I love big production stuff too. Like, you know, like the Avengers, you know, you think about a movie like that where it's like, wow, this is all these different moving parts that come together to make this one, you know, film or whatever. But man, there's something about it for me that I like the stuff that is just like kind of raw. You know, it's got production to it, you know, where you know, you have a format and things like that. I like that, but it's not like everything has to be perfect. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
I like music like that too.
Yeah.
Lo-fi music and demo tapes and like, you know, I was like listening to Steely Dan demos yesterday. They're like a band who cares about their sound so much, you know what I mean? So it's like really funny listening to their demos because you could tell that's like they didn't release it. Like someone else is getting, you know what I mean?
Somebody like
there's no way
back
like
of the room
Walter
like,
Becker was okay with the sound of that demo. No way.
Yeah, right.
But I enjoy listening to it.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's something kind of like with live music, you know, when you go to a concert or a venue or something like that, and it's going to sound different than when it's being recorded or being produced or whatever, you know. But to me, I'm like, my friend and I, his name's Benny White, and he's a rapper. He's also a producer and stuff like that. And he's here in Savannah, and we've talked about music a lot, where you have some of these folks that they use auto-tune and you know, everything is just like, you know, like they might sound like I'm talking right now, and then they auto-tune it or they do whatever and they make it sound perfect, you know, for a song cut or whatever. And you can tell, like, with live music or when somebody's, you know, doing whatever, you can tell the people that can sing, then they can actually, you know, or they can play, versus the folks that, you know, they have to edit and cut or whatever. And I mean, I'm not trying to knock those other folks, but it's just so much better to me when it's just raw, you know, it's just not overly produced, you know, and they took some thought in making it, obviously, you know, but where it's just kind of like, hey, here, this is my thing. This is what I'm doing. And, you know,
like,
trying to make it better each time.
Sort of an example, but completely different. Even like in terms of performing, you don't need like music training. You can be a born performer. Like you can have that weird. So like Tina Turner, for instance, there's that doc on HBO on her right now.
Yeah.
And like, I watch it, and then in conclusion, I can gather that she might not be the most musically talented person ever. She doesn't necessarily write the notes,
it all together.
But no, there's no one who performs like her.
Right.
You know, she has this innate ability to just like move with the band, sing at the perfect time,
get everybody hyped
all
up,
that stuff, you know. And it's not something you learn at Berkeley. It's like something that you're born with, and you have to be fearless and just go on stage and act ridiculous and just give it your all.
Let me ask you with that the same thing, like being fearless or whatever. Like, you know, you as an AD, I'm sure you said sometimes 300 people a day, you know, that you have to work with. I mean, have you seen that too, where you're kind of like, you see somebody and you're like, oh man, you know, when you're watching them work or whatever, do you get that same vibe with acting and actors and people like that on set?
What do you mean, the vibe from the actors?
What, like, you know, talking about with Tina Turner, they kind of pull all that.
Oh,
together.
yeah. So I feel like there's some actors who are, you know, classically theater trained and are good actors, and they're great actors. But I also think there's like people who kind of just do their own thing and it works. You know,
somebody
what I mean?
comes to mind that is Matthew McConaughey.
For sure.
I think of him like I just listened to his Green Lights audiobook.
Oh,
and man, like, dude, that guy, like, I never met him, but I feel like I know him. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think everyone feels like that.
Yeah, especially after I listened to his audiobook, because I thought he was an okay actor beforehand. I mean, like, I'm not like a mega fan or anything like that of like his acting. But when I listened to his audiobook, I was like, dude, this guy is like doing what I want to do. Not that I want to be an actor, but he's done, you know, like he went and made his thing, you know, from his life by just going out and doing it, you know, kind of like when you're talking about.
Great attitude too, that guy. I feel like that's how he made it. He's just like, he's game for anything. Yeah. He's nice to everyone.
Yeah, he's had some hard times too, you know, and that's a thing that I'm like, wow. And his brother's like a multi-billionaire. This guy named Rooster. Yeah, and I'm pretty sure that's his brother's nickname is Rooster. But he's the guy that did that the Texas Billionaire show. My friend was telling me about it. I haven't watched it, but
Dallas Buyers Club.
I think so. Yeah,
the movie?
No, not the movie. There's a reality show or whatever.
Okay,
but he was talking about my buddy was telling me that because Matthew McConaughey's dad was in the oil business. Like they, I guess, did supplies. They ran oil pipes or something like that. And
Texas boy.
Yeah, something like that. And I was like, here he is, you know, his brother's a multi-billionaire. His family, you know, they didn't come up being well-to-do.
No, I think Richard Linklater like found him on the street in Austin and threw him in there.
Right, but he just has so many raw, like, just connections, you know, like with the human story. You know what I mean? Like, listen to his story. I was like, this guy, you know, and regardless if he's a famous movie actor or not, just listening to him talking about how he does his thing. You know, just that's one of the things I love about.
No, I like him because he's deep too. He's, you know, he's. I'm not gonna use the word woke, but he's close to that. He's very like he
he's
thinks
in the know.
Differently.
Yeah,
too.
he's in
the
know stuff. Yeah, he's like he doesn't just seem like judgmental and.
No, but you have those actors who like say, you know, like Richard Kind. Here's an example. Okay. I'll think of one in a little bit. But there's a lot of actors who are just playing themselves. They just walk on, you know.
Right.
They're not doing a character. Right. They're just...
Bill Murray.
Sure.
Yeah, I think of Bill Murray when I think of that.
Yeah.
Like, Bill Murray is Bill Murray in every film he does. You know, he's just like...
A little bit. I feel like older Bill Murray can play kind of like a more sophisticated, like Lost in Translation, sort of like...
Yeah.
I think
that's him, though, dude.
It is him, isn't it? I used to be famous. I think
You're that was him totally.
Yeah, I think that they wrote it about him, basically.
Sebastian, you want to play some more live music? Okay, we're getting ready to come up on the... speaking of radio, would you mind doing the announcement for us? You're listening to...
You're listening to WRUU LP, Savannah, Georgia, 107.5 FM, WRUU.org. We're Savannah Soundings, community radio with global soul. Smiley face.
Awesome. And here's Sebastian Messer playing some live music here in the studio. Thanks, Bass. That was awesome. Thank you. Man, I can't believe it's already 3:45. We got about 10 minutes left.
Oh,
of the
man.
show. It's crazy.
You have to get me for the 2 hours next time. No,
yeah, I know. Definitely. I was just thinking, like, the next time you're in town, you got to come back on.
I'd love to.
Of fun. Because
nothing's cooler than going on a radio show when you're vacationing. If you like radio,
you can bring your wife next time. Be like, y'all, we just make it an hour. That'd be fun.
Shout out, by the way, if I can,
to
the two people I'm staying with in Savannah, Jean and Katie. Thanks for being so southernly hospitable to me and my annoying ways. That's it.
Hey,
thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, you wouldn't have been here today if it hadn't been. So,
I'm definitely not an easy house guest, so they've been so nice.
You're a difficult house guest.
Yeah, I mean, not terrible, but I like playing music and I don't know.
I gotcha.
You're letting someone in your life, so it's good. It's not easy. I'm sure.
Well, they must be okay with you because I mean,
they are. Yeah.
If you're an intolerable guest, they would probably get rid of you. Like, this isn't quite working out, buddy.
Right.
Type thing. So, man, okay. So, we've talked about radio. We talked about your film stuff. What's 6 months from now, a year from now? What's on the horizon for you? What do you work on? And
hopefully, my next job will blossom into another one. Hopefully, even bigger.
Cool.
So I think once I hit the set in May, it's going to be no looking back. I'm going to be working a lot for the next year, kind of doing the show-to-show thing that I normally do, hopefully, and doing the radio show. So, I mean, the end goal for me and Blake, I think, is just to maybe get more attention to our show. You know what I mean? But at the end, I'm not like... I mean, ideally, I'd want it on my favorite radio station in the world, but I don't think that's ever going to happen because I think that the people who... go on that one, there's probably a long list of people waiting, you know what I mean, who are a lot older than me.
Yeah.
So I'm very happy at my home. I think Sherry, who started the station's pretty cool, and I really like their format. I like the support from the other shows we get on the air. It's been difficult for me for the last year and a half and everyone to work because of COVID, but especially on the film industry as well because we can't do it.
Can't be in person. Yeah.
And then, like... For instance, I'm working 3 weeks ago, and there's 3 COVID cases. We have to shut the whole company down. We have to do contact tracing.
Right.
Then you lose work without you haven't even done anything.
Yeah.
So it's been hard. I don't see much difference in the next 6 months. I just feel like some normality is going to get restored, and the worst me is when I'm not working. You know, so I'm gonna just feel my best. I feel like I'm gonna be in my natural habitat, be proud of what I do again, and have my head held up a little more than usual.
Yeah, that's. I think that's a good thing too, man. And like honestly, I'm on a temporary layoff right now too, from work, and I'm under contract because I do electrical work, and I can't just pick up other work.
I'm sure. Yeah.
With the contract and all, I just can't do that. And I know exactly how you feel though. It's kind of like when you're not doing that thing that you really want to do. And you can't, your hands are kind of just tied like with COVID,
If COVID didn't happen, though, I wouldn't have a radio show. So there's been some blessings in disguise here.
Yeah, exactly. That's how I look at it, too. Like, I think this last year has been an eye-opener for a lot of people. It's definitely, even the folks that, that maybe they weren't as affected by it. I think it's changed the way we look at things. I think it's kind of changed the way we feel like interactions and stuff like that. Like I've had 2 guests in the studio with me this whole last year. One is my good friend Josh Vasquez, and then you were the second one. And really, if you were like not here, I could call you on the radio with like my next guest.
I know, dude. My therapist, I've never even met him in person.
Yeah, and I mean, like 2 years ago, this. People were like, oh, well, you can't do this remotely. You can't do that. And we found so many different ways to kind of just embrace a different way of communication. It's been there. Internet's been there. Radio's been there.
Yeah.
But, you know, like you said, you wouldn't have had your radio station.
No, my co-host is in Brooklyn, too. So I bought a mic, and we're doing it via Zoom for 4 weeks.
Dude, that's awesome.
Yeah, so it didn't even, like, curtail us. We were like, F that. We're exactly. Going on.
Go with it. So, dude, I think that's awesome. Well, I really appreciate you being in the studio today with me, Harrison. This has been a lot of fun.
Thank you.
You I know we kind of give any shout outs, but you got any other stuff you want?
I can shout all day.
You got any other stuff you want to
I would
throw
like
out there?
to shout out 3 things that have saved my life during COVID. My wife, this beautiful sport of tennis, and the beautiful world of radio. I'd like to do a shout out to the New York Knicks, who are finally performing. And I've been waiting decades.
Nice.
And those are really the only things I care about. Shout out to myself for like making it to a radio show and getting interviewed.
It sounds like you've got a lot of good, cool stuff going on, man.
I know, it's so fun. I wish you interviewed me like 3 weeks ago. It would have been a whole different story. I'd be like, I don't know what I'm doing with my life. I'm all depressed.
Hey, we all go through that stuff, man. I mean, like, that's the thing with the email that you sent. I saw it, and I was like, oh, this will be cool because I like talking with other creative people. I like meeting new people and making new friends, and so I'm glad it worked out that way.
And also, maybe here's another shout out to, if anyone listens to the radio and you want to be on the radio, here's proof that you can be on the radio. Start reaching out to your stations. I've made it to 2 I like.
I'm telling you. And then the other thing, too, is like, because I write for the local newspaper, they're always looking for good content. Like, they're always looking for good stories out there. So, like, same kind of thing with the radio, like, reach out to different people. But also, like, if you want to be on TV or the news or in the newspaper, reach out and let them know, hey, like, I've got this thing going on or I'm doing this thing, because, that's a lot of times that's how I found, different leads on stories that I've written.
Yeah.
Same thing like with you.
Yeah, you're a writer. You're a journalist, right?
Yeah. And I wouldn't have known about you if I hadn't gotten your email, and if you hadn't taken that everyday courage to say, hey, I'm going to put myself out there and just try to, I'm in town. If it is what it is, then it'll work.
What's the funniest part is I didn't think it would be an interview. So it's turned into something like that's
even better. Yeah.
So
man.
Thanks for having me,
dude. That's awesome.
And thanks for the tune, Sebastian.
That's awesome. Hey, Bass, you mind if you play us out? Everybody, you're tuning in today to WRU LP Savannah, Georgia, 107.5 FM, WRU.org. We are Savannah Soundings Community Radio with Global Soul. And if you are just now catching us, you'll be able to listen to the entire podcast on the AdamMessershow.com. All right, thanks a lot, and we'll be back at 4 o'clock with my guest, Michelle Zeitlin.